Hello, and welcome to the Real Entrepreneurs Club podcast. I'm Jenny Cross, founder of Cross Productions and the East Midlands Real Entrepreneurs Club, and your host as we spotlight the biggest and boldest, brightest minds across the East Midlands and beyond. If you're a business owner who's ever felt like the odds were stacked against you, this episode will shift your perspective. Today, I'm joined by Nick Megson, the founder of Abacus Flooring Solutions, a man who went from rock bottom to industry leader, with a vision that not only disrupted his sector, but is changing the world. In just under 5 years, Nick has grown his business from £20 in his pocket to a 1.4 million turnover business. That's over 7,000% growth, and all been done while changing and creating world-class flooring solutions that are sustainable, beating personal demons and remaining fiercely committed to giving back. He's the kind of entrepreneur who doesn't just build, he builds better. And on the 19th of June, he's going to be taking the mic as a keynote speaker at the Real Entrepreneurs Club Summer Barbecue. Nick, welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. And until you said the 19th of June, then it brings it all back to me that I'm going to be speaking live.
You are, to a whole room of people.
Yeah.
Maybe a garden full of people, and it's a summer barbecue, probably a little bit more relaxed, so it shouldn't be as nerve-wracking.
No.
So, what made you think it was a good idea with £20 in your pocket to set up a business?
My wife, Amanda, she's always said to me, for many, many, many years, she said to me, you can do it. You've proved you can take businesses from zero to a couple of million in within a few years, which I did 3 times, but not for myself, unfortunately, because I never believed I was good enough.
So talk to me about self-belief. Where does that come from? When did you start getting self-belief?
I don't think I have. I think it's just Amanda who, behind every man, behind every good man, as they say. And I think it's the confidence that you get from within. I don't think I'm anything. I just think it's the kick up the bum I get from Amanda who reminds me.
Okay, so what about self-doubt? Does that play a part at any point?
Hugely, especially when, you know what happened to me in my past. So I've always thought I was not worthy. I've always felt I owed the world a living, as opposed to the reverse. So I've always had to give because I felt I owed the world a living. I don't know why, but that's just how I am.
So you recently opened up with an article that was featured in the latest issue of Niche magazine. I believe it's issue 62 for those maybe listening later down the line. And it was really personal what you shared. The story and the journey that you've been through, how do you think that shaped who you are today?
I think it stopped me being smart, it stopped me being cocky, it stopped me being clever, so it's kept me grounded because of what I went through, and I had 48 years of that. So I've had 48 years of living 2 lives. So I had a life which I knew, which was my life when went through what I did when I was 11, but I had to, I didn't want to tell you that, so I had to pretend to be somebody else. So I've lived 2 lives, one of real and one of pretense. Successful, but it wasn't real. I was hiding behind something.
What do you think are the greatest strengths that you got out of that? I know you're a man who believes that there's good in everything. You can take something from every opportunity and every, whether it's a good experience or bad experience, there's something to be learned. What do you think are the biggest strengths that you've taken from childhood?
I think because I felt I wasn't good enough, I had to work harder. Because if you're imposter syndrome. So if you think you're not good enough, which I've always thought I wasn't good enough, it's made me work even harder. I was never good at school because I had 2 minds. My mind was one place, and my head had to be another one. So I've had to work double hard at everything I've done. That's probably why.
Okay. If you look at your business journey, so 5 years, it's been quite a ride, hasn't it? It's
Absolutely.
really grown. What was the first point that you thought, blimey, we might be onto something here? So Amanda's always backed you. She's always been the one with the big belief in you. At what point did you ever stop and go, oh, actually, we might be all right?
Not really, because, again, I've always had a fear because, it's silly things that I do in my life that I'm always scared of if it goes wrong next week. And so I'm always got that overhanging me. And it's only sometimes when I go in the office, maybe at 5:30 when nobody's going to be around for hours, and you walk around and see the setup we have. It is rather special what we've set up. The offices are superb. The warehouse is superb, well above what most companies in my industry have, well above. Even out to flowers outside and the like. So yeah, then it makes it prick and think, wow, this is real. But most days it doesn't. I'm still riding the horse and I don't know really where I am some days.
And what would you say if you stepped out of it and looked back in?
Well,
What would you say is the biggest moment or your proudest moment?
it wasn't even turning over 1 million. I think it's being able to give back. You know, we give to 10 charities a month. We have our own stand at Leicester County Cricket Club. So it's things like that, I suppose. When you're taking guests to these events and you look and think, Abacus, that's us, isn't it? And you have to sort of remind yourself some days. But I'm very poor at reminding myself how successful we are. And I think if I start ever saying we are successful, then you're not talking to the real me.
Okay, yeah. I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because a lot of people that I speak to, they don't like the word entrepreneur because they think it comes with a certain stigma, which is interesting. And you know, I've seen many different people who I would say are entrepreneurs, and some are very humble and some are very self confident. I don't think there's a right or a wrong, but it is very interesting to see. So yeah, interesting that you've never really had that self-belief, and even now you're saying, well, if I start saying, this, then that's not going to be the real me.
No,
How important is it for you to not lose your own way, your own focus and I guess your core values?
it's my drive. It's my sheer drive. You know, I can be watching a film with one eye and looking at LinkedIn with the other eye to see who's doing what and where I can be focusing my attention next. I never stop marketing. So no, I just think it's just so important just to keep working, keep driving, and I'll always do that. Even if we hand the business over slightly, I'll still be looking at that and people say it's your baby. It isn't my baby. It's it isn't a baby. It really isn't. It's a business we've grown, and I am proud of that. I'm proud to, but it's Leicestershire that's done it. I am so proud to be based in the Midlands. It's amazing.
What is it about Leicestershire that
It-
really gets you?
It's
Because
full
you've
of
said that because you're Yorkshire
yeah,
originally, aren't you?
absolutely.
But you call Leicester your home. So why
Absolutely.
is that?
Because I've never been as happy in my whole life. You know, I thought yesterday was a happy day. I'm even happier today. So can you imagine the feeling of sadness? So go back to Yorkshire. That's where it all happened to me. So that I've got sadness. Whilst I've got family, I've got sadness. So I think as soon as we get back into the national forest, as my wife always reminds me, it's a happy place. I've never been as happy since I've been in the Midlands.
Brilliant. Talked about innovation. So innovation's a big word for you,
Oh, yeah.
an exciting word. What does innovation mean to you?
Well, I'm driven by innovation. I only have to read stories, and I do a lot. JCB, one guy started when he built a trailer, and he's now in 125 countries. So that innovation drives me. You talk about entrepreneurs, I think it's more innovation is more important than entrepreneurship. Innovation, it drives me. I wanted to make a difference. I had to make a difference, and that's all I did. Again, nobody special, just did it.
How important is innovation to companies as a whole? Do you think every business should be focused on innovation, or do you think it only plays a role for certain companies?
I think everybody should. But innovating is doing something better today than we did yesterday. It's not reinventing the wheel. It's making the wheel smoother, go quicker. And if you look at all the universities, we're surrounded by the most incredible universities there are in the world, I'm going to say, with De Montfort, Leicester, Loughborough. We've got them all, haven't we? So how can it not drive you? I drive past universities every day and wish I could have gone. Whether I needed to, I don't know. But I just think, with the whole world should be driven by innovation. Innovation stops you being lazy. It stops you assuming that what you're doing yesterday was right, because I don't think it was.
So let me ask you something. There's a lot of talk at the moment around AI. Obviously, it's been around for a long time, but it's only really coming to a forefront with a lot of businesses now. So marketing companies, other businesses have been using it for a long time, but your other businesses are now starting to sort of look at it and go, right, AI. Do you think that will make people lazy?
I don't think it'll make it lazy. I'm hoping there's just been an announcement yesterday that there's a AI can be used now for cancer investigation. So no, absolutely not. Maybe a year ago I was thinking, what is AI? I went to a East Midlands Chamber of Commerce event with AI, and it sort of went over my head slightly, thinking, is it a fad? What is it? Now when I look, absolutely we should grab hold of AI and we should use it 100%. Don't be scared of it. Look at the benefits of it. It's rather like social media, isn't it? Don't be scared of it. Use the benefits. And I think AI will really, really come into its own.
Are you using AI within your business?
Personally, no. But I'm sure I will. Well, maybe I'm dabbling. I'm dabbling. It's like most things, isn't it? It's, Excel used to scare me. And
Excel scares most people. I think AI also is we're quite naive to it as well. So, for example, Netflix, when they're giving you a recommendation, you watch this, so you could watch this. That's all done through AI, and there's a lot of that within businesses that they don't even realise is happening. So let me ask you another couple of questions then. So tell us about the R&D side of your business. So what have you done there that's been different?
we're doing R&D all the time. If I look at it, and again, R&D is the term for HMRC, I think. But whereas I just think of it as innovation, we've got 3 products at the moment that we're trialing in various areas. I'll never stop. I just love it. But I've never had the chance. When I've worked for somebody, it was time wasting.
Right.
That's what it's called. It's time wasting.
It's interesting how different people value different things, isn't it? So to you, it's important to keep.
Absolutely.
Talk to me about sustainability.
Yeah, and again, I don't know where it came from, but I think we've done a pretty bad job as a world. I think we say we're doing it, we do nothing, and I'm finding that more now. I innovated a world's first flooring system. Has it taken off yet? No, it hasn't taken off yet, because people don't believe it, or will it cost more when it's actually it's cheaper in that respect, more cost effective. But sustainability, I don't, and I think we're only doing bits. I mean, we've got 3 electric cars in the business. Yes, it's tax savings, but I just think there's lots of things. We take plastic from landfill, and, as you know, and use it in flooring. I just think that we should be doing a lot more. I think we should be more accountable, and I think maybe the government could say to each company, instead of just R&D monies back, could we not look at something for sustainability and say there would be something back for that? So if you're proving you've changed all your LED lights, yes, you're going to save money yourself, but you will invest, save some of the planet. I think there should be a little bit more emphasis on some money back for sustainability as well as R&D.
How much do you think money plays a part in driving people to make positive change?
Hugely, regardless of what they tell you. I know now, and I won't mention names, of course, but I know now that it comes down to money. I can say to them, we'll use recycled plastic in your floor, well, only if it doesn't cost any more. The first thing they say. And I think that the price is what you pay, value is what you get. And I think that's true in anything, whether that's having a meal out, buying a car, whatever it is. It's the prices. We all have to pay the price, but it's the value of that price, isn't it?
So while we're on the topic of sustainability, if you look at all the jobs that you guys have done over the last 5 years, which job in particular screams to you the most if you wanted to reference one for sustainability?
The Royal Box at Wembley.
And why is that?
Because I was driving down the motorway and I got a call from Wembley, and they said, we'd like you to come and view the Royal Box, putting a new floor down. So I just thought the Royal Box would be an 8-seater box. It's the Royal Box. It's actually 272-seater part of the stadium at Wembley. And in there, we had all the seats taken out. We recycled all the plastic from the old seats because they were brittle, they were broken. We recycled all the plastic and made a new floor for the King and everybody else and princes to stand upon. So I think to be able to make a floor from the old seats instead of landfilling like they were doing, I think the Royal Box would be the one that I would refer back to, that I get a bit of a buzz about, really.
And so I just want to do a little bit of a switch up here. So we're recording this a few days ahead of some exciting news. So for anybody watching this as a video, you won't have seen this bit released yet. But we've got some pretty exciting news. Nick, tell us about the exciting news.
Am I really allowed to say this exciting news? It's and again, we know we haven't started the business for this as the end goal, but to be told that you've been shortlisted in October for a King's Award was incredibly exciting.
And the King's Award was for innovation, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the King's Award was for the research, development and launching of Abacus, the recycled plastic in lieu of silica sand. To be told then that we've actually indeed won a King's Award. I'll never forget where I was, for the rest of my life. I'll remember exactly where I was when I read the email, and I read it again and again and again. rung my wife immediately, and I'll be honest with you, I was incredibly emotional.
Yeah.
Um, you know, there's us two come down from Yorkshire, started a couple of successful businesses, and we've won a King's Award. I mean, does it get any bigger than that?
It's pretty impressive work. What do you think this is going to mean for the business?
I hope it takes the business just forward. I have a 100-year business plan. In fact, I only read the other night. It's now 2,125, April the 24th type of thing. And Abacus Flooring are now selling the recycled plastic in 125 countries. This type of thing, I'll never be around to see that or witness that. But I just think, I hope it does what I think it will do, and it'll. People will realise who they're dealing with. What I designed isn't a fad. What I designed is a life-saving system. So forget the plastic we save going to landfill. It will save lives.
And talk to us about how it will save lives.
Silica sand will kill you, basically. Silicosis. We all know. If I mentioned asbestos in a factory, it would clear the factory within minutes. If I went in and said silicosis, nobody would even bat an eyelid, because they don't know anybody who's died of silicosis. In 10 years, you will. Lots of people. Silicosis, it comes from, silica is in concrete. So if you've got a department store with concrete that's eroding, it will fill the air with silicosis, silica, which you can't see. Once it's in your lungs, it's there forever. You will not get rid of it. There is no cure. So instead of us using silica sand within our products, we use plastic. Plastic is inert. Not that you'd want to do, but you could get it over hand, you could eat it and it wouldn't hurt you. Silica sand will kill you. So not only have we designed a system that saves plastic from going to landfill, that was an aside. The main thing was, how do I stop using silica sand? Because if I do a floor today in here, in a month's time there'll still be silica in the air. That doesn't seem fair to somebody who's totally innocent to that, does it?
So how did you find this out?
It's on the government website, first of all. HSC. Everybody knows about silica. Everybody knows about silicosis, and the other thing is, silica sand that's used in the UK comes from China and Australia. It's mined; it's not quarried. Quarries are quite. I love the quarry. This is mined. It's a dangerous way to get it. It's a horrible thing, but it has to be used in lots of things. Glass it's used in, which is okay because in glass it's inert. It's done, and in a floor, once the floor's down, it's done. But it's the process. So that's how I found out. I'm a bit sad. I do a lot of reading and researching.
I don't think it's sad. I think it's passion coming through. And if you're not passionate about your own product and your industry, then it's a poor show, isn't it? How important do you think it is to raise the awareness of the dangers around that?
Scaremongering is what I was being told. When I started talking about this, it's sort of scaremongering. Well, it's not, is it? We all wear seatbelts now. It took many years and many lives lost before we realised that seatbelts are actually a good thing. They're not a hindrance. They take you slightly longer to get in and out of your car. So what? So I think it'll come without me pushing. They did make me a World Green Ambassador in St Paul's Cathedral, but it's only me, isn't it? It's a hard show to try and change the world as one person.
And how important is it then for you to get this message out there and to educate, as well as growing the business, but trying to educate people around safer choices, better choices for not just their people, but for the environment?
The Kings will help me. That's what I'm really hoping. Everything in life happens for a reason. And some days you think, wow, that was quite nasty. But the next day, it's actually quite positive. And I think the Kings, I'm just hoping that people who are far more educated than myself will grab hold of this and think, well, hold on, this chap must be on with something now. If the King was, again, I'm inspired by the King, so I think he's incredibly passionate about sustainability and innovation and supports it massively. So I'm hoping that this will help on the journey of telling people, really.
So with Abacus, that was obviously actually invented, designed, you came up with that and created the concept literally here in Leicestershire. With that, you've painted the product, haven't you? How hard was that to do? Where did you start? Did you even know, or did somebody say to you, oh, you need to do this? Talk to me about that.
One of my first toys was a corgi toy, and on the bottom it said Pat Pending. I didn't know that was a chap who'd made it or what it meant. And Pat Pending is how Abacus. The trouble is with a patent, we've already spent about £13,000 just to get it so far, and every couple of years you have to keep doing more. it's the cost. It's cost prohibitive, really, because that was a lot of money. We probably put £20,000, probably a bit more, into the patent and the trademark. Seems a little unfair, doesn't it? Really, when I'm trying to help the world, and it's costing me money to do that. It just doesn't seem fair.
And you say helping the world. You're actually going global, aren't you? So, which countries are you looking to sort of hit up first?
Every country, but we've had an inquiry from Canada. We appeared in a magazine in Canada. I don't know how, but we did, and so we've had a couple of inquiries. The absolute benefit of Abacus, I don't need to transport it because this product is in every country throughout the world. It's already there, so I'm not going to say I've got to fly tons of Abacus to America. It's already in America. There are plants, I already know of all the plants throughout the world. Well, I don't know them all, but plants throughout the world. So it's so easy to be able to get the Abacus. If you're in Canada, Korea, wherever you are, you can get hold of the product.
How hard will it be to protect the paint and your formulas when you've got it over in another country?
Money, basically. To get a world patent, I don't even know how much. I know how much a UK patent is. A world patent, I don't know. But maybe somebody might say to me, we're going to come on board with this one. You've got a Kings, you must be doing something right. Let's have a chat. How can we buy 51% or 70% of Abacus, and we'll put the money in, we'll protect it, because there is big money in it.
Yeah, yeah. When you look at now, flipping back to all the jobs that you've done, obviously we talked about the Royal Box at Wembley. What's the most random job that you've done?
Oh, with lots of random jobs, we've done dairies, with the cows, but I can even tell you the names of the cows now that were mooing while we're doing the floor at the side of them, Crumble, Bakewell, Biscuit, they were all there, these Jersey cows. That was a bit random when you were being watched by these cows, and as cute as they were, it was strange. But I think we've done lots of funny, quirky jobs. We've done Twycross Zoo, where we've just done the reptile house. So yesterday I was in with the monkeys.
And talk to me about Twycross in the reptile house, because that's been quite an interesting job. Obviously, I'm lucky enough to have seen a little bit behind the scenes, but just talk to me about how you sort of brought in the use of different colours.
Twycross was interesting. Twycross has got a very, very old building which had ceramic tiles on the floor with steps everywhere, because many years ago, steps didn't matter, did they? It just, they'd lift you over them. Where now, so Twycross came to us with a limited budget. So what I did, I had to come up with a system that would go over the top of the tiles. I could reduce all the ramps to make them all user-friendly. And only yesterday, if I was revisited, we had to do different colours. They didn't mention this to me in the quote, but they wanted green for tropical, they wanted sand colours for all the deserts, and they wanted two blues for the ocean. So wherever you're looking at, if you're looking at an iguana, and so the colour of the floor you're standing on, but it all had to be in swirly patterns. It's it's in fact the queue is rather like when Pandora opened. The queues, I was there yesterday, and they said the queues have not died down from the day it opened.
Brilliant.
So it's quite something, isn't it? And that's the first zoo in the world to have a floor made out of recycled plastic.
Blimey, world first, King's Awards.
Yeah.
I mean, where does it stop? So what's next for you? Talk to me about what do you think's next?
I'm putting things in place that Abacus will be running with me there, clearly. But that will be running. I want to spend much more time with Abacus. My dream would be not to sell Abacus, but because I haven't got the money, it would be to sell the company, not to sit on a beach, but to sell the business, at least a proportion of the business, to see it go into the countries. Can you imagine, if Mr. Bamford could see now that he's in 125 countries, how he would feel? And I don't want to wait until 2125 till I get in those countries, because I won't be around to see that. So I'd like to do a little bit of that now in America. I was talking to a chap yesterday who said he's got connections in the Middle East, India and China, who would be very interested in it.
So if you were to pinpoint 3 key milestones or targets or things that you want to achieve in the next 18 months, what would they be?
It wouldn't be about turnover. It wouldn't be about profit. That they'll come along, because if you're smart enough, and I like to think I am, that they'll happen anyway. It would be Abacus. It would be, if I could see, if I was to fly out to the States, let's say, with my wife, and see the name Abacus on some 100% recycled bags out there, then I'd only need one milestone. If I could see that we were doing it, what I believe in, if I've delivered it to another country and made a difference, then I've done it, haven't I?
Brilliant. And how important is training? So talk to me about the training centre.
Another chap has completed his, so he's got the same qualification. We've got another one on it. We've got the training goes on, but again, my dream, and it's a facility. I've still got to earn money, so for the company, otherwise I'd be irresponsible. But a training centre, we had a chap come down from Yorkshire who had. They said he was unemployable, which I think was a dreadful thing to say. He left us after 6 weeks with certification, with confidence. He's now got a full-time job in Yorkshire, a new car, doing very well for himself. So that's what I want to do. I want to put something back where we can bring somebody who hasn't got a clue what they want to do as a job, let them come along. They could go in the office, they could go in the warehouse, they can do what they want, they can bag Abacus, they can do lots of things till they decide what they want to do. When I left school, I wanted to be a zookeeper, and the reason was because it didn't need a qualification.
And now you're doing floors in zoos.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
A bit
the
of a
dream
twist.
came true to
Yeah.
an extent. What about, so you've turned waste into wealth and you've done it with no external funding. How do you sort of deal with the pressures that are coming as the company's growing and growing and growing? It's quite fast paced. I've had the pleasure of being in the office on a reasonably regular basis with you, and I see the phone ringing, I see inquiries coming in, I see a great team. How do you deal with that sort of pressure?
Pressure, business pressure is simple. When I've had the pressure I've had since I was 11 years old, I think any pressure is easy and manageable. You do need good people around you. I do have a really good team around me, and that starts from my wife right through to everybody who works within the business. We're all responsible for the success. It's not just a wage earner. We're all responsible. And bear in mind, we've done this. We've grown to 1.4 million, whatever it is, with no finance. We've had no finance, no overdraft, no finance, no nothing. We've done it. But I think to grow further, we'd have to do that. But I have no aspiration to grow Abacus more than 2 million. Abacus is the one thing I want to spend the time and money on.
And what are the, I guess, personality traits or behaviours that you think are imperative to get from your team?
It's nice to be nice. It really is. As basic and as simple as that it's just nice to be nice. And we do instill that, it's just, we unemploy nice people. It's just nice to be nice. We will have no other way. There is no excuse. Manners are free. Manners change people's days into good days. So I just think it's simple as that.
What does legacy mean to you? What does it look like to you?
Yeah, the 100-year business plan. I think that's what that means. That I just think, we employ a lot of younger people, and they must look at me and think, "Good grief, he's so old. Where will we be? What if they decide to go live on a beach somewhere in Thailand? Where are we?" That will never happen. Well, the Thailand bit sounds nice, but the legacy is we will leave the company as a legacy. That will continue on. When I'm gone and when Amanda goes, time after, the company will still be going. I see no reason why not. That company won't be going in 100 years or 1,000 years.
Brilliant. So our last guest was Jake Carrier from Food Attraction, and at the end of his interview, I asked him, "What question do you want me to ask our next guest?" And his question that I'm then passing to you is, "Why? Why did you do it?"
I was going to say my wife told me to, but I mean that's too easy, isn't it? It's given us choices, because we're busy, but the decisions we're making are our decisions. We're changing we're allowed now to make grown-up decisions, whereas I've always been told no, unless it makes money or if it costs money, you ain't doing it. So now it allows us to make our own decisions for the right reasons.
What would you say is the best decision that you've made?
Coming up with the name of Abacus, starting Abacus, I would have said making the leap to starting it. Bear in mind, when we started it, we're in the middle of a biggest pandemic in the world has ever seen. July the 24th, 2020 wasn't probably the smartest move, was it? But my brother always said, if you start in a recession or start with trouble, it can only get better. So
That's very true. And where did the name come from?
I was driving on the M42 and I rung my wife and said, quickly get a pen and paper, because I thought, I've done this for 30 odd years. But how do I get that over? And Abacus is obviously the old counting frame. So our strapline is Abacus, where you can count on our experience. And that's as simple as it was.
Brilliant. Oh, I love it. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. Before we close out, I have got a couple of quick fire rounds. One founder you admire right now?
Mr. Bamford, JCB.
Why?
Because it was just straight after the war, where people didn't have much. He could have just got a job, couldn't he? Because that's what most people did, because they got a job. He didn't. He realised he could make a difference, and he certainly made a difference.
Okay. One myth about sustainability that you want to bust.
It doesn't cost more to do it right.
One word to describe how you feel winning a King's Award.
Elated.
The one thing that you would want to say to your wife, Amanda, who's been your biggest supporter.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you. Nick, you have not just built something remarkable, but you've proved that it's possible to lead with purpose and to build with integrity and still come out on top. Winning a King's Award for innovation is not just a credit to your idea, it's a statement about your character, about your courage, and about your contribution to the future of British enterprise. Our listeners, I am absolutely confident, will have loved today's episode. You're a keynote speaker at the Real Entrepreneurs Summer Barbecue on the 19th of June. You're going to be sharing a bit more of your story, talking to people about how it feels, an unfiltered version, as we won't be recording. Anyone that's looking to attend, it is a private invite-only event, but do get in touch. If we can get you in as a guest of one of our associate partners, we will do. If this episode made you think differently, please share it, leave a review, tag us in it, tell someone else that you think might need to listen to this. What I am going to say is, for those of you listening that are old enough to remember, in the old days, you would buy a single and often there would be a hidden track. Today, we have got a hidden track because Amanda Megson has accompanied Nick to the studio because they are off to Wimbledon on a job straight from here. And while I've got Amanda in the studio, I have twisted her arm and I'm going to swap Nick for the wife. And I want to hear behind the scenes some real home truths. So if I can just switch you over, that would be great. Amanda, so behind the scenes, this is a luxury for us because we don't often get to see the other side of things. I know you've played a huge part in the business, shaping the business, from a supporting you on the board. What was it that made you feel that passion and need to say to Nick, go and do it on your own?
Hello, Jenny. Nice to be here. I always had the belief that he could do it because I saw how hard he worked for everybody else, and I just knew, and I always believed in him, that he could just do it for himself, and he'd be absolutely amazing. And as you know, right now he's just absolutely smashing it, and I couldn't be any prouder of him at this very moment than I am.
So the point where he said, "All right, I will." How
Yep.
did you feel?
Amazing. I was like, thank goodness, finally you can, because what he did go through, bless him, I could see that, it was there in him. He just needed to believe in himself. And I always had that belief in him. But I just had to keep, slowly drip feeding it to him that, come on, we can do this. You can do this. Just total belief in him. Just knowing he could do it.
What would you say are, from a business perspective, are his three greatest strengths?
He's kind, he's caring, and he's very, very considerate. And also, if I can go to a fourth, he listens. He doesn't just, go in, even in life, our personal life, he will listen. If I come to him with a problem, and even in work, he will listen before he actually, comes up with a solution of how we can deal with the situation there. And then, like, going in with clients, they'll say, oh, we want this, and Nick will say, we'll listen, and then he will actually say, well, have you thought about this?
What would you say, looking back over it? Obviously, every relationship has ups and downs. You can't have the highs without the lows.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there a point at any time where you almost wanted to strangle him and you sort of felt like, oh my God, I can't take this anymore. We all get stressy days like that.
Absolutely.
Is there a moment in particular that stands out to you?
No, not really. I think it's just, every day is obviously stressful, and especially for Nick, because he's front and center of the business. Everybody knows Nick and everybody rings Nick, which is amazing. So really, it's just being there for him. When he's stressed, I have to be the calming. I have to be the listener. I have to be the one that says, right, how are you going to solve this? Which way are you going to go? And things like that. So, yeah, it is stressful, but like not one thing stands out, shouts out to me because, everything is stressful within the business. So it's just there. It's just being there for him and just listening, and making sure making sure I put him back on the right track.
And how many times have you had to do that?
Not many. Wink, wink.
So they say, yeah, in fact, he doesn't want to look over at the moment.
No.
They say every relationship, there's no such thing as 50-50.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you've only got 20% to bring to the table. Your other half's then got to bring the 80.
Yes.
What would you say the dynamics are in the relationship? Is it often a reasonable 50-50 split? Is it normally 20-80? How would you say it generally seems to pan out?
I think, especially within Abacus, it's definitely maybe 90% Nick, because he's, like I say, he's visually there. He's in the business every single, every day, taking the calls. Whereas I'm more in the background, and he'll ring me as a sounding board. This has happened, that's happened. What do you think? And I think I'm more there, to encourage him and to say to him, well, turn it round on him and say, well, what would you do? What do you think? In those certain situations, and normally we work it out that way. So yeah, so he's there 90%. I'm there, would say 10%. Of the business, which honestly I don't mind, because yes, I do know a little bit about running a business now. I know more about resin flooring and the Abacus, the recycled flooring now. But yeah, it's definitely more Nick than it is me. And I'm in the background. Sorry.
If we looked at it from a more of a relationship, not the business, but
Yes.
the partnership, as husband and wife.
Yeah.
Where do you think it fits with that? So if you looked at the who brings what to the table, is it often 50-50? Do you have days where you need him more than he's needing you, from a support point of view?
Yes.
How does that pan out?
I think every day is different. It just depends on, what kind of day I'm having, because recently been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. So some days, I'm exhausted from that. So Nick comes, he's more 90% because of, what I'm going through. And then other days it can be 50-50. And then other days I can be 80%, and he could be 20% because, of the tiredness of the business, or just what he's going through mentally. It's it changes every day.
I think the one thing people forget is that behind every business owner is an actual human being.
Absolutely.
With a family, with their own things going on. So
Yes.
obviously, I didn't actually know that about your diagnosis, and that must be a challenge in itself. What's going to be next for you? What changes will you be making, if any, to make sure that you are healthy and able to sort of still live the fulfilled life? And you are so fun. Every time I've met you're
Thank you.
brilliant fun, and you are Nick's biggest champion. You are
Absolutely.
his biggest cheerleader.
Yeah.
What things are you going to be doing to make sure that can long continue?
Positivity. I don't let anything stop me. I don't wake up and think every morning and think, oh, I've got this or I've got that. Getting the diagnosis was amazing, because then I knew why things were happening to my body. But now, no, positivity. I'm not going to ever let it stop me. I'm just forging forward, being behind Nick, being in the business when I can be, and in our personal life, making sure we're getting out and about there and doing things. No, everything is positive. There's no doom and gloom here at all.
How important is mindset in life?
Oh, yeah, it's huge. Having a good understanding, a clear vision, should I say, of, forging forward and not letting anything stand in my way, our way, just, and dealing with things as they come along. Don't let things fester, just everything, deal with it there and then, and have a positive and open mind about whatever comes our way.
What would you say is your proudest moment? Sort of looking in at your husband,
Yeah.
who has created this amazing business, and yes, with your support, which
Yes.
I know that he would say it wouldn't have happened without you.
Yes.
So often you'll say 9 to 10%, but
Yeah.
I would say Nick would probably say very different, because
Yeah.
although he might be the face in front of it, it's you that's driving that behind him.
Yeah.
What is your proudest moment when you look at him through the business and you think, wow?
I think my proudest moment was at home, because obviously we started in COVID, when we were talking about it on and off for a bit, and then it just went to me, I'm going to do it. And so just taking that first initial step to becoming Abacus Flooring, I was like, yes, this is it. This is, this is what I've always wanted for both of us and for our family, because I just know what kind of person he is. So yeah, the proudest moment was like when he said, come on, let's do this. We can do it. I was like, yes, finally.
And how did you feel when the first job landed?
Oh, absolutely. I was just unbelievable, giddy, making sure we got everything in place, phoning things through, and you can't describe it. It's just one of them things where you think, I knew it would happen. Yes. And this is the moment, so just, super proud, absolutely super proud.
And obviously now with the King's Award,
Yeah.
I expect proud beyond belief, but a very different kind of proud to when the first job landed or when he said that he was going to do it.
Yeah.
So it's almost like these proud moments are just sort of snowballing.
Absolutely.
So how did you feel when you heard the news? So obviously Nick phoned you first, soon seen the email. How did you feel?
Yeah, well, it was really strange, because the day before I'd spent the day with him. We'd been out and about traveling around looking at jobs and doing stuff. And normally I would go with him now. Now I've got more time. I go for days with him. So I wasn't with him that day, and I was supposed to be, but because we changed our days around, and he rung me, and I just sat on the bottom of the stairs and I just cried, because it means so much to both of us, but also it means so much for him to receive this, because I know how much, he's worked so hard to become the person that he is today. Yeah, I just sat on the stairs and I just cried.
It's almost verification as well
Absolutely.
in himself that
Yes.
actually you're nailing this. You're
Yeah.
good at what you do.
Absolutely. And it's also recognition that people see the person that I see every single day. It's also somebody saying to me, you were right. He is the most incredible person, in the world, not only to me, but to everybody else as well.
And what do you want to see next from the business?
I'd like to see that, to continue on with the mark that we're already making, but to continue to make the mark on the world that we're meant to be.
Yeah. And if you could give Nick one bit of advice, what would it be?
Don't stop. Continue on as you are, because you're just incredible.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. So a little behind the scenes. Like I say, for those that are old enough to remember, it's the
Yes.
hidden track. So yeah, brilliant. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much. I massively appreciate throwing you in
No, thank
last
you.
minute. And thank you again to Nick, who's obviously offset listening in the wings now. Brilliant. Cheers. I will hopefully see many of you on the 19th of June at the Summer Barbecue. For those of you that aren't coming, like I say, drop us a message if you want to get along, and we'll see what we can do. Until next time, thank you.